Hello everyone, welcome back to the Budget Sportsman, and thank you so much for joining me on today's video. Today I'd like to make a video that I've been meaning to make for a very long time that answers some of the questions that sometimes I get in the comments of my videos, and it goes something like this. Is the Budget Sportsman a fraud? Now, generally speaking, most people don't come out and phrase that question in those exact words. Instead, it sounds something like this. I thought you were the Budget Sportsman. How can you afford to saddle hunt? Saddle hunting is so expensive. Or it might sound something like this. Why did you buy that piece of gear instead of this cheaper alternative on the market? Or even something like this. I can't believe you called that a budget piece of gear. So today I want to address, at least in my opinion, what it actually means to live on a budget, especially when it comes to the outdoor lifestyle that we all love. So the very first thing that I want to point out is that anytime I refer to a budget, whether it's my household budget or a sub-budget for my outdoor hobbies, it simply means that I'm trying to manage my money in a smart way so that I'm in control of my money and I know where it's going and how much I'm spending. Now, obviously, sometimes managing my money well does mean that I'm going to limit how much I spend in a particular area, especially in this case, my outdoor hobbies. So as the Budget Sportsman, I track nearly every expense and purchase that I make that fuels my outdoor lifestyle. If I spend money on hunting, fishing, camping, it goes on a spreadsheet. Now, on my family's income, I have a limited amount of money that I get to spend on my hobbies. But what I spend that money on within the framework of that budget is totally up to me. The word budget does not necessarily imply that I always have to buy the cheapest product on the market or that I can never have anything nice. Sometimes I choose not to spend money on certain items so that I can save up money within my budget to purchase a nicer or more premium product that I feel will enhance my outdoor experience. The point is, regardless of whether or not I buy the cheapest product on the market or a more premium option, I'm always operating within the confines of my budget. Now, to clarify what I just said, sometimes operating on a budget does mean that I'm going to buy the less expensive option. Whenever I'm buying something, I really try to analyze what I want and how it will improve my outdoor experiences. If a more premium product seems like it will drastically improve my experience over the cheaper option, I may try to save up to purchase that nicer option. On the other hand, if the more premium product is simply just what all the cool kids have, or I'm only paying for a well-known name without any significant advantages, then I'm more likely to opt for the more budget-friendly option. Here's a great example of this. Last year, I reviewed a Lifetime cooler. That cooler costs somewhere between $100 and $150 depending on which model you get. But you can get a cooler that holds ice just as long as the $400 Yeti cooler. So why would I pay more? On the other hand, I recently purchased a more premium sleeping pad for backpacking and camping because I valued a good night of sleep in the outdoors, and I wasn't convinced that the cheaper option would provide the same experience. The next point that I want to make is that every person's budget will look different based on their income and their household expenses, and how much they can afford to budget for their hobby. Not only will each person's budget look slightly different, but for most of us, our budget will change throughout different phases of our life as our income and expenses change. For instance, kids tend to change that expense ratio. When I started YouTube almost exactly 4 years ago, our family was in a really tight spot financially. I had very little money to spend on my hobbies. Shortly after I started YouTube, I remember making a video called, "Does God Care About My Arrows?" Because at that time, I didn't even have $45 to spend on a half dozen of arrows. Now, if you want to find out how God provided for those arrows, go ahead and watch that video. Shortly after I made that video, I also made a video about buying a boat for $300. Now, in that video, I said I bought a cheap beat-up boat because it was all that I could afford. The truth is, at the time, I really didn't even have $300 laying around to buy a boat. I had to make some sacrifices, and I had to have an online garage sale to sell some things in order to save up the money to get an old beat-up boat. I said all that to say today I'm in a different place than I was when I started the channel. 4 years later, our family income has changed, it's gone up. We still have some tight spots, But this YouTube channel has also started making some money, and it's allowed my spending fund to be much more than it actually was 4 years ago. Today, I'm able to purchase things that I could only have dreamed of 4 years ago. But I'm still operating on a budget and trying to wisely manage my money. There's still things that I don't buy that I would love to buy. I don't go buy a brand new bow every year, and I still hunt in cheap Walmart camo. Why? Because up to this point, I've prioritized other purchases over those items. Now, there probably will come a time when I do buy a new bow, or I buy into some more premium hunting clothes. But when I do, it will be because I saved up my money and prioritized that purchase within the confines of my budget. And when that day comes, I'm sure I'll get a comment saying, "I thought you were the budget sportsman. I can't believe you bought a new bow." And in response, I'll reply with a link to this video. So here's my final thought. Whether you have a budget of $100 a year or $100,000 a year, live within your budget and manage your money well. I don't mind at all if you buy a new bow every year and you own every single piece of gear that Sitka has ever made, just as long as it fits within your budget. I find that if I stay in my budget, I can buy new gear without feeling guilty, and that helps me to enjoy my purchases even more. What would be a shame would be for me to buy everything my heart desired, but be burdened with guilt and credit card debt. So there it is, my thoughts on hunting, fishing, camping, the outdoor lifestyle, or life in general on a budget. I hope it helped you out to at least understand where I'm coming from with my channel, The Budget Sportsman, and why sometimes I don't always go for the absolute cheapest product on the market. Let me know what you think down in the comments. Let me know how you operate your budget for your outdoor hobbies. And until next time, remember to get off YouTube and get outdoors into God's great creation.